you controlling your breathing right now. Feel the power of you enjoying your greatest gift right now. That's you. That's your presence. That's your greatest power. Your power to determine to stay in the present, in the now, and be your true great being that you are. No matter what. In this present moment, everything is here you need right now. So let's see ourselves today doing the best we can in the gym of life. Here we are again. Controlling our minds. Controlling our breathing. One great thought at a time. One great breath at a time. So see yourself doing your best on all the exercises we do today together, here and now. That's your determination, your greatest power, power that's the same in you and every human being on the planet.
Feel the magic in the air. Magic System, Red One, Shawty. Comme d'habitude on est calé, comme toujours ça va aller. On te met l'ambiance à gogo, tous ensemble on fait le show.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis, c'est bien faire la folie.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis. Oh, 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 oh. C'est pas seulement pour les bobos, nous on vient dans nos mambo. Mon ami, si tu as le niveau, rejoins-nous pour t'enjailler.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis, et viens faire la folie.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis. Oh, 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 oh. Magic System.
Toujours nous.
Ah, ça change pas.
Ah ouais.
Ah, Shawty avec Red One. Est-ce que ça marche?
Ça va pas.
On vient du ghetto.
to go. Barcelona in desperate need of a goal. They go for the...
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable!
Hi again, everybody. Today, Sadhguru shares more wisdom with us, and his 7th rule for success is fix yourself. This is the greatest thing ever, that empowers us and gets us to lock in to the fact that this, our brain, the most powerful thing in the universe, has the capability, by making a choice like fix yourself, to go after your happiness. It is something that comes from within. It's nothing outside of you. Nothing at all no material thing can bring this. But you can fix yourself. I got great news for you. I am on the path to fixing myself. And I believe 95 to 98% of us can go on this path of taking our life to the true level of happiness, inner happiness that we deserve. I hope this helps everyone. Have a great day.
Now I want to share with you what I call the ladder of perception. It's just a way of understanding how your mind works. So often we go through the day, something happens and it turns us into a bad mood, and for the rest of the day we're kind of wrecked and ruined and upset and frustrated, and it's not until we go home, have 5 glasses of wine that we finally chill out, right? So what can you do in the middle of the day to get yourself back? It's just helping you understand, well, how do your thoughts work? How is it that you're getting into these times in your life where you're just emotionally so upset or so frustrated, or you feel like you're just not in control? And how can we use that same reasoning to figure out how can you shape a more positive mindset? Because we all want to feel better, right? We want to have more positive thoughts. It's just hard when the day is crazy. We all want to have a lot more buoyancy and vibrancy and pop to our life, but it's hard when we keep taking in so much information that's not always positive, right? So this is going to be a way to explain how to get you in a better mindset. And it all begins with this first part. The first thing that happens to shape your way you think is you get some information, right? Super basic, I know, but hold with me for a second. Sometimes we don't realize how much information is coming in that is turning us into a negative person. And sometimes information happens and we grab hold of it and make it more than it is. I mean, has anyone said to you in the last couple months, hey, it's not a big deal, calm down? If they had, it's because there's this information coming in and you're grabbing it in a specific way that's turning your mind towards negativity. And I know this sounds very, very basic, but I promise we have to start with what's coming in, right? It's just that old saying, garbage in and garbage out. So what I tell people, if you want to have a healthy mind, first and foremost, pay attention to the information that is coming in. What are you consuming? What are you looking at? What are you watching? What are you reading? Who are the people who are around you? All of that is shaping your mind, which I know you already know. Here's the question. When's the last time you did sort of an assessment or an analysis of the people and the information coming in? Like, what blogs are you reading a lot? What do most of your emails seem to say? Who are the people who are around you? What's the emotion and the energy and the information they're giving you? I know this sounds really crazy, but I am so controlling of that in my life. I don't have a lot of negative people who are always giving me negative information. I don't consume very much media at all. I don't watch horror films, or I don't consume a lot of information that just tends towards the negative at all. Not because I'm Pollyannish, because I understand how it's going to affect me long term. So pay attention to the information you have coming in. Second, as the ladder goes up, well, we get the information and then we interpret it one way or another. This is where obviously we know we see something, some information comes in, we interpret it as bad or good, positive, negative, something I need to interact with and react to or not. The challenge is most people take little pieces of information and they blow it up and they interpret it to mean something very personal and very negative. If you're in a place where you feel like you have a lot of arguments and fights, it's rarely about what's coming in, because we all deal with negative information or bad things, or the day gets interrupted. It's how do you interpret it? Then as we move up, we move to identity, right? This is what did I see? What does it mean, positive or negative? Then it says, what does this mean about me specifically, right? And this is where people take things very, very, very personal. You know, someone comes in to work and says, well, I have some bad news. We're gonna have to let some people go today. And then they interpret it, oh my God, this company's gonna fail. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to quit. Oh my gosh, I might get fired. Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen in the future? And then identity. Here it is again. I failed again. Here it is again. I never seem to get good things from me. Here it is again. I just don't seem like I'm deserving of anything. And people take things at a personal level into their identity over a period of time. Now you can see how this ladder is building because negative information can come in, you interpret it negatively, and then you take it personally negatively. And this is what happens to people. They don't realize little simple things. Someone cuts you off in traffic. How do you interpret that? See, when someone cuts me off in traffic, I go, oh, well, they didn't see me. Or, they were trying to get ahead here. Other people, you know what they do. They're like, that son of a, and they get completely angry. They completely freak out. They say, all drivers are horrible. I hate this commute. This sucks. And then they say to themselves, they take it so personally, they say, you know what, I'm gonna get back at this person. I'm not gonna be wronged. I'm not gonna be disrespected. So they speed in front of them and cut them off because they took someone passing in front of them to be what? Disrespect to who they are. Because they're a person who always feels disrespected. And if you always feel disrespected, what are your thoughts going to be like? So you see how all this is starting to build to how you feel, and then it shapes what you intend in the world. What are you going to do, right? Your mind is all focused towards this one simple set of questions. It's, what does all this information mean? How do I need to interpret it? Pay attention to it, not pay attention to it. Important, not important. Good, bad. Then we take it to us. What does this mean to me personally? What does it say about me as a human? What am I dealing with here? And then it ultimately shapes our intentions. So the next time you find yourself in emotional craziness, or you feel really upset, or you're saying, I don't know why I'm thinking this way, you can step it back. What did I hear? How did I interpret that? What did it mean to me? What do I intend to do? Because all of that led to what you ultimately do, the initiative that you take in the world, right? What you're actually going to be doing. So here's the payoff. When you're doing things that you are not proud of, when you are doing things that you think like, I don't understand why I'm not taking more action. I don't understand why I keep beating myself up. I don't understand why I keep getting in fights with the people that I love. I don't understand why I can't stay more persistent towards my goals. If that ever happens, just take a pause and go, you know what? I need to think about what is happening here. Because it's the way that you're perceiving in the world that is controlling how much you progress in the world, right? And a lot of people, when they're having negative behavior, they just think it's happening to them. And I say, oh, let's just step it back. Okay, you were mean to your husband, okay? You found like you were really short with them. Where did that come from? And then we can just step it back. How are you feeling about yourself in that circumstance or that situation that led this way? What happened? What did your husband do? What did he not do? And how did you interpret it? And ultimately, what did you see or not see and experience? I know it sounds so basic, but try it. If you can work this through on a couple of different examples from your recent past, just think about those times when you really struggled or you didn't feel good, go through this, write it down, journal it, and you'll start to feel a lot more understanding about who you are and how your mind works.
Wanna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gon' throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. Let's have some fun. To the left now. To the right. Now take your left hand and put it on your side. Gon' roll your shoulders, do the slip and slide. This next part's my favorite part, cause it's time to shine. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gon' throw down, take a sip Slide to the left, slide to the right. Now cool down, have a good time. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Do the butterfly, have a good time. Round, round, round and round you go. It's time to show out right now and take to the floor. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gonna throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. Take it down now, take it down now. Take it down now, take it down now. Bring it up now, bring it up now. Bring it up now, bring it up now. Take it down and crisscross. Bring it up now, crisscross. Do whatever you like right here. Just have fun. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gonna throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gonna throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. Yeah.
For Sosa. Of course, Otmar Hitzfeld familiar with him as well. Ball in for Aguero. The back heel, Messi shot, near post goal.
Good morning, everybody. I want to share with you a powerful thought that I just thought of today, and it's helped me so much in my life. It's from Stephen Covey, and it is this: nobody or nothing can hurt you without your consent. Think about that statement for a moment. At first, it might seem ludicrous. So think about a thought, a comment, or any sort of negative thing that may happen to you. Let me give you an example. So I work with students all the time, and one of the things the younger ones especially will come up to me with is, Mr. Francis, so-and-so did this to me, or she said this about me. And then I always say to them now, and who decides whether that's true or not? And then they stop. You should see the look on their face. They're just, and then they say, me. I said, that's right. You decide what's true about you. So I hope this helps everyone. Apply it to your life. If you're not a victim, have a great day.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The world becomes a different world when you change the way you look at it. If you believe you live in a depressing world, you'll be looking for something to verify and validate that for yourself. When you change the way you look at this world, you live in a different world. Just be like water. And what is water like? It is the softest substance on the planet, and yet it is the strongest. If you take a rock, the hardest substance you can find, you can take titanium and just take a lump of it there and just let water run over it, patiently running over it. Eventually, whatever that hard thing is, it will disappear. And water, if you want to get a hold of it, if you want to experience water, if you reach in and grab a handful of it, and the tighter you squeeze, the less you get. But if you let go and relax and allow and do nothing, you'll understand water. And if you look at the sea is the lowest, we call it sea level, and it is the lowest place on the planet. And all of the rivers and all of the streams, wherever you see it, they're all competing and fight whatever they're doing, but the sea stays low. And in so doing, it allows all of this to come to it. Practice the Tao says. Radical humility. Stay low. Let your ego go. Let it come to you, and miracles can happen for you.
Wayne Dyer was an icon in self-development and spiritual growth. He wrote over 40 books with an astonishing 21 New York Times bestsellers. His childhood was spent in orphanages and foster homes, but he'd go on to inspire millions and become known as the father of motivation. In his exclusive speech from the Celebrate Your Life stage, Wayne Dyer shares with us the keys to conquer your false self, overcome limiting beliefs, and find your real purpose. Special thanks to Liz Dawn for partnering with us to release this exclusive content on our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
There is something that I refer to as a calling, and it is something that's sort of buried deep inside of us. It's a few years back, I wrote a book for my teenage children. I had 5 of them as teenagers at one time. And the book's called 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. And the reason I wrote this was that I wanted my children, after I'm gone, to, if they ever wanted to know what I thought of as the most important ideas that I had ever encountered, I wanted to put them in this little collection here. The second one of these secrets was something that you've probably heard me say if you've listened to me over the years or if you've watched public television. And I got it from one of the great teachers that ever walked on this earth. His name was Leo Tolstoy. He was considered to be the father of Russia. In 1905, this was the most famous man on the planet. This was before television, before radio. He was one of the real great writers of our time. But he didn't just write great things like War and Peace. He wrote The Kingdom of Heaven is Within, a spiritual text and he was speaking from a position of having an awareness of the power of great spiritual teachers, especially Jesus Christ, in a country that was run by czars and didn't really have a whole lot of religious tolerance. And he wrote a little short story, 167 pages, so it's not that little, called The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And Ivan Ilyich was a judge who lived in Moscow, and he hated everything about his life. He blamed his wife for where he was, what his conditions of his life were. He had wanted to be something else in his life, and instead, because of the pressures that he felt were imposed upon him, he went to school and studied law and became a judge, went back and forth every day, but didn't like anything about his life. And if you remember the title of the story, you know the ending, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and you kind of keep waiting for that. And in the very last page, he is lying on his deathbed, and he looks up at his wife, who is holding his hand, and this is a woman he despised and blamed for the conditions of his life, especially his inner conditions. And the last words he said to her as he died were, "What if my whole life has been wrong?" And he died. I was in the Navy at that time. I was 19 years old. I was on my way to Japan across the Pacific Ocean, and I took out a notepad and I wrote a little note to myself, and it said, "Dear Wayne, don't die with your music still in you." And that always has had a very profound, I always go back to that as one of the signature moments in my life, when I started a journal and started writing down the really powerful ideas. And I wrote about them and have practiced them and lived them. But there is something inside each and every one of us. In India, they call it a dharma. And a dharma is really there's a pull, there's a purpose to your life. And each and every one of us, all of us who originated from the same place and will return to the same place. T.S. Eliot said, "We shall not cease from exploration. And at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we came and to know it for the first time." He was talking about death. I'm talking about getting to that place without having to die. What we call dying while we're alive, dying to the ego, to the part of us that believes in this thing that we call, Muktananda called it the false self, the part of us that becomes aware that we are something other than what we really were intended to be and what we came here to do and what we showed up here for. The first 9 months of your life, from your conception until your birth, you were in a state of complete surrender. There was nothing to do. Everything was handled for you. Whatever it was that handled it, whether you call it God or spirit or the Tao or consciousness or divine mind, whatever it is, it does nothing, and yet it leaves nothing undone. And there's this complete surrendering process. We have no other choice. We show up here in the Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu says that all being comes from non-being. Jesus put it the same way. He said, it's the spirit that gives life. The flesh counts for nothing. Quantum physics teaches us one thing, if nothing else, for certain, that particles themselves do not come from particles. That there is something in each and every one of us that is formless, that is boundaryless, that has no beginnings, that has no ends. It's eternal. And it is from that we emerged in some mysterious fashion, in one split second, from non-being to being, from non-particle to particle. And in that split second, everything that you needed for this physical journey was handled for you. And it's the biggest, most incredible miracle that any of us can ever witness, isn't it? And when you contemplate it and think about it, you try to process it, and it's just beyond anything that our meager intellect can handle. I was at the birth of 6 of those children, watched that miracle unfold, and saw that these children not only were a great mystery, but they came here with personalities already intact the moment that they were born. And any of you mothers out there who've had more than one child know exactly what I'm speaking about. Some of them sleep through the night. Some of them stick their tongue out at you the first second they see you. And then when they're 18 and they come home, they do the same damn thing. You know. And this incredible mystery, this place called spirit, is something that handles everything for us without doing anything. And the moment that we are born, this beautiful little baby comes out and we hold it after we take the mucus out and we cut the little cord and do all the little wiping off and hold this little baby and we look at it and we say, great work, God. Thank you. We'll take over from here. And that was the birth of your false self. This is the time when we take over and we begin to edge God out of the picture and take it over ourselves. Edge God out. E-G-O. We take on this thing called an ego, and it becomes our identification. And all of the great spiritual teachers, whoever they may be, teach us the same thing, that this is not the authentic self. This ego of ours, we begin to believe something that has nothing to do with spirit, that perfection from which we originated, which allowed us to become this perfect little creation. It's not too great a stretch for me to imply that if everything that we needed for this physical journey was handled in that moment of our going from non-being to being, that everything for the rest of the journey was hinder as well. If we would have just let it be. There go the Beatles again. Let it be. Let it be. There will come an answer. Let it be. But we don't. We start teaching ourselves and our children that who we are is not this divine perfect creation that knows exactly what to do and what to be. It's already been taken care of. It's already been handled. Just like everything else on this planet has a dharma. Every spider, every otter, every flower. Nobody has to interfere with it. Nobody has to tell it what to be or how to do what it is. It just is. It just is. But we start interfering. And as we interfere, we take on this false self. And this false self says that who I am is what I have. So we begin to become obsessed by our possessions. And we train our children and ourselves to believe that who I am is what I possess and what I own. And as we take on this belief system that I am what I own, it becomes the very thing that takes us away from our spirit. Because the ego says you are what you have. The Tao says let go of everything you have. Just let it go. You don't need to own anything. And then we believe also that this false self of ours believes that we are what we do and what we accomplish. And so we spend a big hunk of our life preparing ourselves to achieve, to get ahead of the other guy, to get the good grades, to make more money, to be in competition, to evaluate our worth as human beings on the basis of how we stack up to others and how we achieve. The ego says you are what you do. In the Tao, it teaches us to do nothing, to do less, that more is less. And less is more. And to allow yourself to be guided and to know that there's a divine organizing intelligence in this universe. And you can let it, Lao Tzu put it this way, he said, let yourself be lived by it. Let yourself be lived by it. He said, you're doing nothing. You're just being done. Let yourself be done. Just like you did in the first 9 months. You're doing nothing. You're just being done. And at 68, when I look in the mirror, I can see the same thing happening. I'm just being done. Just try to stop your heart from beating, or your fingernails from growing. I used to say, or your hair from growing, but I've mastered that one. And then this false self of ours, this ego, tells us that not only are you what you have and what you do, but you are what other people think of you, your reputation. And again, we go off on this journey of attempting to get everybody that we encounter to accept the fact that if you like me, then I'm a better person. And so we struggle with things like peer approval and getting other people to like us and evaluating ourselves on the basis of how many awards we win and so on. And then this false self also tells us that we're separate from everybody else and that we're separate from what's missing in our life. And the most egregious error of this false self is that it teaches us that we are separate from God, that God is something external to ourselves, something that we pray to and we ask for divine guidance from. And we treat this thing that we call God like a cosmic bellboy, asking it for things when we get into trouble and promising to behave if it'll only deliver for us now, as if this God was a withholding God and had the power to heal you or to offer you the abundance that is missing in your life, but it's holding it back so that you'll contribute more to whatever organizations believe they represent God. And it's a false image. And what happened for me at the age of 65, the day after I turned 65, 3 years ago, is that I was called to do something and live something that I had never even imagined could happen. On the 11th of May, 2005, I called my secretary and I called her and I said to her, and I didn't know this the day before. I said, I would like you to take everything that I have in my townhouse, which was my office, where I did all of my writing for the previous 25 years, which had over 20,000 books in there and all kinds of equipment of all kinds and awards that were on the walls and photographs and furniture and electronic equipment and tax records and whatever you accumulate in a writing space over a quarter of a century. And I told her, as I handed her the key to this place, I said, I want you to get rid of it all. She said, well, tell me which part you want to save. And I said, I don't want to save anything. I want it all to be gone. And she said, and then when it's empty, what would you like me to do with this place? I said, we'll sell it or give it away. And that night, someone called about an inquiry about purchasing this place, which was near a hospital in Boca Raton, who needed to be close to a hospital because of an injury he had received. And he said he would really like to have one of these places, which were very, very hard to come by. And he made an offer, and Maya said, well, it's about $50,000 less than what we can get for it. I said, let him have it. And then when you sell it, give the proceeds to my ex-wife. And I left with no clothes, no shoes. Everything that was in there was gone. And I was called to Maui, where I live. And I was called by a man who lived 2,500 years ago in the warring states of China, part of that 93% of when we were still at war with each other, villages fighting villages, countries fighting countries, people conquering each other, enslaving each other. And this man who lived at that time, his name was Lao Tzu, which in Chinese means old man, and asked me to, in my meditations it kept coming up over and over again, to immerse myself into this ancient book called the Tao Te Ching, T-A-O-T-E C-H-I-N-G. T-A-O, Tao, means the great way. T-E, in ancient Chinese, means the virtues of. Ching means book. So the book of living the virtues of the great way. 81 verses. Some call it the wisest book ever written. It came down to us with over 14,000 different translations in the last 2,500 years. Modern, ancient, all the different languages, 14,000 different interpretations of this classic text that he jotted down. In fact, he didn't even write it. He dictated it to the gatekeeper as he got on his oxen, legend tells us, and he came to the gate where he said, I can no longer live amongst these warring states and these warring peoples. I am a man of peace. And the gatekeeper wouldn't let him leave, legend tells us, unless he told him in words the great wisdom that he had been telling people who had been coming to him for many, many, many years, including a man named Confucius, who was 40 years his junior, who came to him for advice. He was a contemporary of Buddha, just a little ways away from there. and Socrates and Zoroaster and some of the greatest spiritual teachers who all walked among us in that 5th century before Christ. Someone sent me a book when I was working on this called Lao Tzu and Jesus. And on the left-hand side of the page were the teachings of Jesus, and on the right side were the teachings of Lao Tzu. And now, I'm not saying that Jesus was copying or plagiarizing since he came 500 years later. But I know there's no time, so all of that is meaningless. But they're almost identical, because the great spiritual teachers who walked among us only have one message for us. And in these 81 verses, which you could read in about an hour, but you can study for a lifetime. I had a teacher in India back in the 80s. His name was Nisargadatta Maharaj. And Nisargadatta had a book written about him by his devotees, just like Lao Tzu did. It was called I Am That. And I remember him saying to us that you don't have to read this book. He said, just carry it with you, and the wisdom from the pages will come to you, because there's energy in everything. You don't even have to look into it if you don't want to. And if you need to, you'll be guided to. And now that was a while back. I was in my early 40s, and I just thought, well, this is just another one of those crazy gurus over there in India. And I didn't understand that until I became familiar with some of Hawkins' work on energy. So I created my own translation of the Tao from bringing them with me and going through the ones that seemed to be most relevant, the ones that were most understandable, and we put it into a paperback with an affirmation next to each one of them. And I now understand what he meant, and I do this now. I carry it with me wherever I go. The entire Tao, and it always guides me. The Tao has impeccable wisdom in it. The opening line of the Tao says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. The minute that you put a label on it, you have now divided it into two. You've got the thing, and you've got what you're calling it. And when you try to make two-ness out of oneness, you've lost it. It just is what it is. It does nothing. God does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. And God and the Tao, in my estimation, are synonymous. It is that which allows all things to come into being, which has no form. It is who you are right now, sitting here processing this in your bodies, but the part of you that's processing it has no body, has no form, has no beginning, has no end. And there you are, this huge paradox. In a body that began and ends, is going to stop someday. All that materializes, dematerializes. And there's a part of you in there watching, listening, observing that has none of that. You're a walking, breathing paradox, like everything in the world of the 10,000 things, which is what Lao Tzu called the material world. And so I was called to it, and I decided that I was going to take an entire year of my life. And in this year, I was not just going to write about the Tao, I was going to experience it. I was going to live it. Each of the 81 verses. And I called my publicist and my publisher and all of those people who schedule me and do things to me, direct me here and there, and told them that I was taking the year of 2006 to be essentially free of that. And there are 81 verses, and if you take 365 days and you divide it by 81, it comes up to about 4.5. So for 4.5 days, I had the opportunity to experience verse 1 of the Tao. What it meant, meditating on it, practicing it wherever I could go, living it, memorizing it, constantly referring to it, taking notes on it, talking about it, but more than anything, attempting to live it and to practice it. And this was a calling. This was a calling that said, Wayne, you have music to play, and just because you're 65 years old, or 66 then, doesn't mean anything, because there is no time. And so when you read the Tao, Lao Tzu's great tome on eternal wisdom, so much of it is paradoxical. So much of it doesn't make sense to our intellect. So much of it we want to reject, particularly those of us, all of us in this room who live here in the West. This idea that you can get more by doing less, that you can become strong by becoming weak, that you can become big by thinking small. And it wasn't until at the end of each one of those 4.5 days when there would come a time when I wouldn't even know if I had it yet. Then I wake up at 3 o'clock or so in the morning, and I would meditate on it, and on that half day that I had, I would write my interpretation, my essay about how to do the Tao now, how to live it. And we made a public television special about it. They allowed us to broadcast it all over the country in prime time. Imagine the calling. Imagine the power, the feeling of being able to make a huge impact in the world by having something written 2,500 years ago being broadcast on national television, night after night after night, in city after city after city, raising money for a wonderful cause like public television. It was an honor beyond anything I can describe to you. And every time it would air, I could see people being touched by it. We called it Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, and there's 81 essays in it. It's a little heavy to carry with you. And when I finished that year, and I finished that book, and I did the public television special, and I lived those 81 verses, what I realized is that it taught me what to think. I learned, see, what the Tao teaches us is that we all have a nature. Listen to Lao Tzu. He says, every human being has an essential nature that is perfect and faultless. But after years of immersion in the world, we easily forget our roots and take on a counterfeit nature. I would suggest that all of us who have immersed ourselves in this world have taken on a counterfeit nature, what I just described in the opening few moments. This ego, this part of us that really believes that my essence and my nature is about what I have, what I do, what other people think of me, and my separation from each other and from God. That's the story of the ego. This counterfeit nature, if we can transcend it, what I learned to think was, he said, look at nature. You'll find God in nature. So in the 81 verses of the Tao, 31 of those verses contain references to water, to just be like water. And what is water like? It is the softest substance on the planet, and yet it is the strongest. If you take a rock, the hardest substance you can find, you can take titanium and just take a lump of it there and just let water run over it, patiently running over it. Eventually, whatever that hard thing is, it will disappear. And water, if you want to get a hold of it, if you want to experience water, if you reach in and grab a handful of it, and the tighter you squeeze, the less you get. But if you let go and relax and allow and do nothing, you'll understand water. And if you look at the sea is the lowest, we call it sea level, and it is the lowest place on the planet. And all of the rivers and all of the streams, wherever you see it, they're all competing and fight whatever they're doing, but the sea stays low. And in so doing, it allows all of this to come to it. Practice, the Tao says, radical humility. Stay low. Let your ego go. Let it come to you. And miracles can happen for you. In the Tao, it says that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with what? A single step. It says, don't think big. Great sages, says the Tao, accomplish great things by thinking small. I just celebrated my 22nd year of sobriety. And I want to tell you, that's big. Especially if you had 22 years before that in which you drank every day. Not to drunkenness, just every day. And when the day came, when the time came, when the quantum moment came for me to let it go, I didn't do it by thinking big and saying, I'm going to not drink now for the next 22 years. I would have had to open a beer to contemplate that. But I accomplished a great thing like that by thinking small. And so I learned what to think. And then that year was complete, and I studied it and wrote about it and felt its presence. It excited me, this thing called the Tao. And I taught at a university for years. I even taught courses in various different philosophies and taught about the Tao, but I'd never understood the symmetry, the beauty, how compelling the simplicity of this great wisdom if you begin to apply it, if you begin to see and find your own essential nature. And your own essential nature is just like all of other nature. You're a part of nature. And yet what we have done is ignored our nature so frequently. Our nature has nothing to do with violence. It has nothing to do with weapons. It has nothing to do with killing. It has nothing to do with enemies. These are all constructs of the ego, of the false self. We come from a place of perfection, a place of kindness, a place of love, creation. Learn to think like God thinks. That's what Einstein said when they asked him about quantum physics. His observation was, he said that they're just details. He said, all I want to do is learn to think like God thinks. How does the source from which all things originate, to which all things return, how does it think? How does it act? That's what Lao Tzu meant when he said we have an essential nature. And these virtues inside of our essential nature are nothing more, there's 4 of them. They're nothing more than reverence for all of life. If you can live that, reverence for all of life, Sincerity, which manifests itself as honesty. Just simple honesty. Not that you don't steal, but the kind of honesty in which you are able to relate to and reflect who you are with everyone that you meet from a place of internal integrity. That this is who I am. This is how I dress. This is how I live. This is what I think. Gentleness is the third of these virtues in the TE and the Tao Te Ching. Simple gentleness, which manifests itself as kindness. And finally, service, which is nothing more than just reaching out and serving others. And in the unknown teachings of Lao Tzu, called the Hua Hu Ching, I'm going to read something to you that is one of the most impactful things that I've ever heard in my life. And I'd like you to really think about it big time. Many of you know about something that raged across the country a year or so ago called The Secret. And it had some great lessons in it about the power of our thoughts to align with the thoughts of God, and in doing so, to be able to manifest and attract into our lives what we would like. And I was asked to be a part of that, and I turned it down because I think they missed something. They missed what I'm about to share with you. In fact, yesterday for the very first time, I was able to preview something that I undertook this summer at the age of 68, when I was asked if I would do a film, a movie for movie theaters, not a talking heads movie, not a movie which I'm just interviewed and talking like I'm doing now, but an actual film with real people in it, 92 of them to be exact, starring Portia de Rossi, who is Ellen DeGeneres' spouse. And I had the great honor on the 16th of August this year when they both asked me in their quiet, cutest way you've ever seen at Ellen's home if I would marry them. And I did. We were in the midst of filming this movie called Ambition to Meaning. I saw it yesterday, the first rough cut for the whole thing, and watched it with Maya in my room here at the hotel. And Maya was sobbing and couldn't contain her enthusiasm. It absolutely blew me away. You'll be able to see it in January. It's a little over 2 hours, and it's a drama. And it takes what I think was missing from The Secret and puts it into 3 concurrent running stories and teaches people that this idea of aligning ourselves with our spirit, with God, is not about what's in it for us. It's not about saying, I want this or I want that. And it's not about selfishness, and it's not about attracting into your life more of the stuff of the ego. It's about something very different. And this is how Lao Tzu put it in the oral teachings of the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching. If you wish to become a divine, immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. If you want to reach the divine realm, if you want to know God, not about God, if you want to experience the opportunity to think like the source, like the Tao, like God thinks, and have all that is possible to come into your life come into it, then listen on. These angelic teachers, this energy, this spiritual force, this guidance, these angels, whatever you want to call that guidance that comes to us from beyond, these angelic teachers that you seek out cannot be sought out. It is they who seek out the students. Do I ever know that to be true? Especially after giving up everything that I owned, everything, and letting it all go, and immersing myself for a year of my life in this process. When you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm through high awareness and the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow. This is the path that all angels take to the divine realm. This is the path. The mystical techniques for achieving immortality, that is, the ability to manifest and attract into your life at any moment anything at all that you would desire, are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. You have to dissolve your ties to this false self and the world that perpetuates it. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. And that's what I think The Secret missed. And that's what we try.
I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, ha, you can whip your Porsche. I've been in the valley, you ain't been up off that porch. Now, can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Riding on a tractor, lean all in my bladder. Cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. My life is a movie, but riding in cowboy hat from Gucci, Wrangler on my. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Hat down, cross town, living like a rock star. Spend a lot of money on my brand new guitar. Baby's got a habit, diamond rings and Fendi sports bras. Riding down Rodeo in my Maserati sports car. God knows stress, I've been through all that. I'm like a Marlboro man, so I keep going back. Wish I could roll on back to that old town road. I wanna ride till I can't no
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Out of Wolfsburg, breaking free Messi, and he's got some help. Senderos can't stop him. Wolfley, 12 yards.
Hi again, everyone. Today, Sadhguru shares with us his rule number 9 for success. And it's a huge one, I think, especially in light of today's world and especially in light of all the mind health challenges, anxieties, depressions, things that are rooted to our thoughts. So this is what he says to us. He says, don't set incentives for sickness. So what that means is you are the creator and the controller of your mind, your thoughts. So you are the one that decides what is going to hold you back. So an example is things like the weather. We often say, oh, today the weather's not sunny and not exactly the way I want it. So immediately we start to put ourselves in a state where we're allowing the weather to control us. It's the same with our health, especially our mind health. If we stay in that negative state, we are perpetuating the feelings that come with it. Hope this helps everyone. Have a great day.
Do you ever feel like there might be some kind of hidden limiting belief inside your head or your heart? Maybe even a fear of success? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're afraid that you're actually not good enough to achieve your dreams, or that if you do achieve more, that people are just going to expect more from you and you'll never be able to meet their expectations. Or maybe you're afraid that more success will cost you your mental or your emotional or your physical health, or that you're going to have to sacrifice your values. Whatever your limiting belief might be, the first step is you have to face it, which means I want you to say it out loud. And most importantly, you need to write it down. So that's what I did. And it really helped me so much. First of all, naming it stopped it from being this really vague and shapeless, scary feeling that was just floating around in my head and my body. And more importantly, when I wrote it down, I could just look at those words on the page and I could distance myself enough from it to really see it objectively. Now, the second step was to get curious. So I had to ask myself, is this fear based in like scientific fact? Is it like the law of gravity? Or is it just one possibility out of many that could possibly exist? Now, of course, it was just one possibility out of many. And look, I've been with the same person for a very long time. So I just stayed curious and I asked myself, okay, Marie, has your relationship actually gotten worse the more successful you've become? And my answer to that was no. In fact, when I really looked back, I realized that we actually used to bicker and we used to fight and argue a whole lot more in those early days. And that's when I was just starting out and I wasn't nearly as successful then.
Need motivation?
What's your top 10 with Believe Nation?
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I struggled to keep going. I was making $300 a month and felt like a complete failure. And the thing that saved me, that pulled me up, was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs. I got the motivation from them. I also got the strategies of what to do next so that I can go off and achieve my dreams. And quite honestly, I still need the stories today myself to continue my motivation to take it to the next level. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Marie Forleo, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is find clarity.
I'm going to show you how to get clarity on almost anything. So if you're anything like me, there are situations that come up in your business, in your career, in your life that you're like, I don't know which to choose. I could go either which way. Why don't I have the clarity I need? And oftentimes we're so used to looking to other people, calling our friends, calling experts, hiring coaches, looking to books, looking to all the external information, instead of remembering that we have this incredible well of internal wisdom that is always available inside us. Yet most of us don't know how to tap into it. We don't know how to listen. So here are my 2 best practices for getting that clarity and finding it from the inside out. Practice number 1 is something I call tapping into your higher, wiser future self. So all of us have another self that is coexisting with this one. And I like to think of it as my kinder, more expansive, more experienced, wiser future self. So whenever I find myself in a conundrum, here's what I do. Rather than going with my mind, which thinks, I like to go with my heart, which always knows. And here's how I get there. So I put my hand over my heart, I close my eyes, and I really ask, I say, all right, higher, wiser, future self Marie, what do you really know to be true about this situation? Is it a yes? Is it a no? What does it feel like inside? What's the wisdom that you have to offer me right now? And then I wait and I actually listen. Again, most of us have so much information coming to us at all different times from our computers, our text, our email, social media, you name it. There's so much noise from the external world that we've forgotten that this beautiful version of us exists if we can actually hear it. So again, putting your hand on your heart, tapping into that higher, wiser, kinder, more experienced, beautiful future self that already exists in another dimension, and asking, what's the truth for me in this situation? What do I need to know? What do I need to understand? What's the best next move that's going to support my growth and who I need to ultimately become? Now, the most uncomfortable part is usually hanging out in silence and feeling what arises from within. And here's what I've learned about the messages that come from our higher, wiser future self. They're never harsh. That voice doesn't speak in a critical tone. It usually whispers, and it communicates with simplicity and clarity. Sometimes it might, for me, come in words. Oftentimes it comes in body sensations. Like I can feel a sense of dread about moving in a particular direction versus another. I can feel a sense of lightness about moving in a certain direction rather than another. Or one feels just more fun and more easy rather than another. So give that a try the next time that you might be feeling like you've lost your way, you're unclear about how to move forward, and that you're too busy listening to external voices rather than your own. And if you don't get the clarity that you need with that little practice, here's my next one. So this is something called automatic or guided writing. I got to tell you, this was something I used consistently when I was writing my book, Everything is Figureoutable, because I kept running into so many struggle points. Oh my gosh, I felt like I was beating my head against a wall. I didn't have clarity. God, which chapter first or which information to put where? And it was so torturesome because I was putting so much pressure on myself to get this book right. I wanted to do a really great job for everyone. Anyway, the practice of guided writing saved my butt. And here's what you do. So, guided writing is this journaling practice where you tap into that higher, wiser, more conscious you, and you give it voice on the page. Just let your hand start moving on the page. And I promise you, if you ask with intention and you allow yourself to just start letting words come through, you will be shocked at the wisdom that shows up.
Rule number 3 is set deadlines for yourself.
First up, it's important to remember that deadlines exist for a reason, because they really work. So lots of psychological research has been done to back this up, right? To back up the power of deadlines. So for example, Dan Ariely did a study several years back where he had 3 different groups of students. Some were given no deadlines. Others created their own deadlines, and then a third group had to stick to the deadlines set by their professor. Guess what happened? At the end of the semester, it turned out that the students with no deadlines performed the worst, and the students with externally imposed deadlines performed the best. So the bottom line is that yes, even though deadlines can sometimes be uncomfortable and annoying, they are a fantastic tool to help us perform better and actually get things done. It's really about making a choice, right? You need to have an honest look in your heart and ask yourself, what is truly most important to me at this stage and season of my life? Is it getting this project done in 3 months, a year, whatever time frame it is? Or is it more important for me to just enjoy this creative process and allow the thing to unfold as it unfolds? And then once you're clear on that, once you decide what's most important, you need to be at peace with your choice and do not torture yourself with the alternative. So if you decide that getting this thing done in a particular time frame is really most important, then be smart about it. And yes, create a deadline for yourself. And look, it doesn't have to be this crazy intense deadline or be one that like freaks you out. But again, deadlines work. They are proven to help us get things done and perform at our best.
Rule number 4 is create a success plan.
I never start my day without a success plan. You might be saying, Marie, what is a success plan? Let me tell you, it is a way better version than a to-do list. So I'm going to show you mine right now. It's on a simple little notebook. This is like a $2 notebook. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. And I write down the most important things that I will get done the next day. So today's success plan. I write down the meetings that I had. Like here, I know I had a little meeting with my friend Regina to help her out with her pricing. There were things I needed to do to prepare. I'm giving a couple of big talks coming up soon. So I have all of my notes to rehearse. I have my meetings in here, and then there's a little section at the end for like personal stuff, like return my rent the runway, and then I need to leave at 6:30 to get to a friend's place for dinner. So I never walk into my day without my success plan. As someone who has ADHD, it's not a wise thing to walk into an open day and go, well, what do I feel like doing? Or what might be the most important? I'm the queen of reverse engineering and setting myself up to give myself the greatest chance possible for feeling successful every damn day.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is stop comparing to others.
On our breathing. Back straight, Eyes closed, legs crossed. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel that power that you're using to control your breathing. It's your connection to oneness, to what we all really are, to the truth. The ultimate truth. That you were born to win control over your mind. That when we all do that, we find out the truth of who we all really are. Infinitely intelligent beings. Powerful beyond measure. The power of all knowing right here, right now, this moment. You're already made of all knowing of the universe. You're made of that same stuff. And with that, you can always have and be your true, peaceful, happy, kind, loving self. Reflect back on your effort today. Always remember that if you gave your best in whatever you were doing, that you can do it now, and you can do it forever. That's what makes you a winner. Born to be happy and peaceful, to be mind healthy and wealthy, always. No matter what's going on outside your mind, no matter what anybody or anything suggests about you, any negativity, that's all a lie. It's all losses. Losses that we, as determination, we get to transform to win, to truth, to accuracy of who we really are. That's why I love you and everybody in this universe. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great week. Enjoy every moment. You're the greatest gift ever. Love you all so much. Take care.